Boeing planes are continuing to break down. Just yesterday, a Boeing 757-200 aircraft lost a wheel during takeoff. The plane did not make it to its destination and landed safely. The wheel was recovered in Los Angeles, according to United Airlines, and no injuries have been reported. Now, this comes as Boeing is in talks with the Defense Department about how its guilty plea deal in connection with two MAX 737 crashes could affect its government contracts. Per reporting in Reuters, Pentagon spokesperson told reporters that the agency would make an assessment to decide the impact of the guilty plea on Boeing's contracts. He was unclear on whether the Pentagon is in communication with the plane maker. According to its annual report, 37% of Boeing's revenue was from government contracts. In 2022, it had $14.8 billion worth in Pentagon contracts.
On Sunday, the Department of Justice said in court filings that Boeing agreed to plead guilty for misleading federal regulators in connection with two MAX 737 crashes, one in 2018 and the other 5 months later in 2019. 346 people were killed. The plea deal is not final yet, but if Boeing agrees to it, it will have to pay a $243.6 million fine and invest $455 million in safety and compliance. This is a get-out-of-jail-free card for Boeing, as it can now avoid a public trial that could take years. Families of the victims killed are not happy with the deal and want a trial. Lawyers for the families indicated they would request a federal judge to reject the deal. Final details of the legal deal are expected to be filed by July 19th. Remember, two of Boeing whistleblowers died suddenly. John Barnett died from a self-inflicted gun wound in March, and then Joshua Dean, who battled a severe infection and lost his life to it in May, passed.
Right, and those were both
questionable
odd circumstances, although, you know, the forensics, the police investigation has been such that they were
one of those guys
fault.
One of those guys said, "Just remember, if
I'm found dead,
I didn't
will not
kill myself."
And
was
what we're
found
being
dead.
led to understand is that he did kill himself, but who knows?
Yeah.
It is certainly suspicious as all hell. It actually reminds me of that. We were talking about George Clooney just a minute ago. That George Clooney movie where they try to
cover up.
The company tries to kill him for knowing something about how harmful the products are.
Yeah, it's like
Michael Clayton.
Yeah, there we go, Michael Clayton.
Yeah, great movie.
It is a great movie. It's it's interesting.
What was Tilda Swinton doing? That's what I want to know.
Boeing's in a really bad position right now, because if they are forced to go to trial, which I think they should be, the information about what they knew, what the cutting of the corners for these planes and the production, it's going to go public. And for a publicly traded company that does defense contracting with the government, those stories could be just devastating for Boeing's stock and for the company itself.
Yeah, most people probably want the billions in taxpayer dollars that are given to private companies to
bail them
arrange
out
for services. And in addition to the bailing out, yes. I was talking about for the legitimate services they do on behalf of the government, but you're right, they also just get bailed out by the government.
The COVID bailout.
I was totally against it. I said, this is not going to benefit any normal working people. This is going to be just for the big guys at the company are going to take a vacation on your dime, and this is totally unnecessary, and we should never do this kind of thing. Now, there needs to be accountability for planes being built improperly on the taxpayer's dime that we're paying for. And now it remains the case that, so I have to overcome a little bit of my skepticism here that anything is all that wrong, because we don't have a lot of plane crashes in the United States. In fact, we've had zero for like the last 10 or 15 years.
Yeah. Thank God for computers.
Yes, it remains the safest way to travel. We put up with so many car deaths, tens of thousands of car deaths every year. Nobody's holding congressional hearings for the car companies, right? It's just accepted as a part of life that so many people will die every year in these horrific car crashes. The number of people who've died because of plane malfeasance is like in the single digits over years and years period. So I don't want to scare people away from flying, because
as someone who flies multiple times every week.
Right. Same. I'm flying out. I'm going to Vegas tomorrow.
Oh, okay. All right.
For work and maybe a little bit of fun too, perhaps. If you discourage people from flying and they choose to drive instead, you're actually causing you're worsening a public crisis, because people are more likely to die in those circumstances. So I'm very cautious in my commentary here, because the last thing I want to do is encourage people to drive instead of flying. That said, Boeing clearly needs to be to make right, to
accountability.
assure us that everything is fine. Yeah, to engage in accountability. It's becoming, if it's Boeing, I ain't going. People are saying that.
Yeah, and I think the broader issue that people are really upset about is corporate pay. The CEO of Boeing got, I think, somewhere around $30-40 million in pay this year, while they're having tires fall off, while they're having emergency doors fall off.
The door blew off.
Yeah, the problems that they're having are, a monthly, if not weekly issue. Yes, there aren't multiple crashes, but there's potential crashes. And as you're seeing with these, the families of the people who died, they're covering up information. And so the idea that you could be CEO of a company like Boeing, who in the last couple of years has had multiple scandals, and still be pulling in tens of millions of dollars for what is undoubtedly a poorly run organization, that's really upsetting to people who are trying to figure out how to keep their lights on.
Yeah, it's absolutely outrageous. It's outrageous to everyone, I think, both sides of the political aisle. Someone presiding over numerous disasters should not have this just utterly unbelievable level of pay. The golden parachutes.
Yeah.
And these companies got bailed out.
Yeah.
They got bailed out. It's outrageous.
Yeah, I mean, we're having people pay back money that was given during COVID, individuals who can barely afford it, but we're having corporations who were given taxpayer money, are able to have their own private planes they're flying on, are able to do all these things and never have to worry about the implications that the everyday person does. And I think that's something that if Democrats really want to kind of change the messaging that's going on right now, this would be the perfect test case. Talking about the corporate pay structures at Boeing, or even, talking about X and, Elon and Tesla getting that huge payout. That's something that I think really bothers people. And as we get more into Boeing, as, potentially this trial goes public, and we start to see discovery, that's where I think you're going to see more corporations really worry, because undoubtedly there's emails, there's always correspondence where people are talking about the very thing that's going to now go up before the American public.
Stick around, we'll have more Rising right after this.